Okay, so we have successfully finished three interesting presentations, and I got a couple of questions from the participants. So let me go over those questions. And since our discussion time is quite limited, also, so I want you to be very brief and just to the point to the question. First, for David, there were two questions popping out. One is whether Russia is using the two pipeline, the Power of Siberia and Nord Stream 2, as a geo-economic leverage against Europe. So one is so. What is the kind of geo-economic concern of Moscow? So that was the first question, and the second question is, is Russia, from the European perspective, is Russia truly reliable? If not, is there any kind of plan B for Europe to diversify its gas supply, for example, from Africa and some other region?
Right. Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. I'll start with the first one, and the answer is fairly straightforward. In terms of the relationship, I started by saying that there's kind of like a mutual dependence. But the truth is that the Russians need the European energy market more than the Europeans need the Russian energy market. And so Russia doesn't really have a lot in terms of its ability to use it as a geo-economic leverage. In fact, the consensus, as I've argued in the paper, is that the Russians have consistently indicated that just treat this as a purely commercial issue and leave out politics out of it. And the issue of politics comes in mainly because of what I call the burden of history. Division within Europe, the Baltic states and some Central and Eastern European countries are concerned with Russia's politics. So they think that the energy issue can be used to leverage Russia, to influence, to get Russia to change some of its foreign policy activities in the region. And then the second question, concerns about delivery. Actually, the Nord Stream 2 is a reflection of the ability of Russia to prove itself as a reliable supplier. So you are the first Nord Stream that went through, and the second Nord Stream 2 was in response to the need for Russia to increase its gas supplies to the European market. And in terms of Plan B, yes, there's a lot of Plan B going on. There are other indigenous European energy sources, not necessarily just, Europe is not entirely relying on Russia. We've got supplies like Norway and supplies from the North Sea in the UK, and other alternative sources of renewable energy. We also have the liquefied natural gas. So these are all the things that in the Russia's calculus, gas is a very important strategic commodity for the Russian state, but they begin to realize that Europe is kind of diversifying itself. And so the Russians are actually seeking Plan B, which is in terms of the power of Siberia. But as I argued, it's not having a major impact. So generally, I hope I've been able to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And for Jinhoon, there was a question actually about the ASEAN and NGO. So actually EU ASEAN relations involve, well, it's not just kind of track one, but it also involves a number of the non-state actors and non-state organizations. So can you see this NGO in the ASEAN, the list of NGO charter in the ASEAN charter, can it become a basis of the non-state actors' cooperation with the EU's EESC to broaden the partnership in the future?
Thank you, Professor Lee, and thank you, Wolfgang Pate, for the question. Well, so the ASEAN Charter does provide the legal status and institutional framework for ASEAN. But as you may know, ASEAN is an intergovernmental organization, which is built on the sovereignty reinforcing regionalism, whereas for EU, it adopted the idea of supranationalism, where national sovereignties are pulled into common institutions. So the role of ASEAN as an institution really varies depending on the cooperation agenda. And in this regards, the ASEAN itself is placing a great emphasis on both track 1 and track 2 cooperation, as Professor Lee mentioned. For track 1, the government-to-government cooperation, and track 2, the social civil societies cooperation, including the academia or NGOs, and these corporations do matter in finding the resolution for any kind of cooperation agenda. Thank you.
Okay, and for Diana, actually there are two questions. The first question is how the Fukushima accident in 2011, how Fukushima accident have affected the relation between the European Union and Japan in energy cooperation. So that was first question. And the second question is, can Japan catch up in energy cooperation with the European Union, considering its current very low level of renewables? So how can we make a valid argument and a valid case linking the renewable the cooperation, especially in terms of market craft between these two regions?
Okay, thank you. So I will start with the first one because it's a little bit easier to to answer. Fukushima accident did have, in fact, a very large impact on the cooperation between EU and Japan. And I think the biggest impact was in the area of energy security. So it once again highlighted that there is a need to cooperate to enhance energy security for everyone. It also, of course, had a little bit a shift towards basically new forms of energy cooperation. So what we see after Fukushima is also a lot more focus on clean energy markets, but also more focus on, again, the gas markets, because through the Fukushima accident, of course, particularly in Japan, there was a huge shift towards more incorporation of LNG for the energy supply in Japan, because they turned down all the power plants that were nuclear power plants, and this this lack had to be substituted somehow. So we actually did have a surge, so to speak, in this cooperation thoughts after Fukushima, and it went basically in the two directions that I investigated in the paper. So more cooperation clean energy, more cooperation LNG. Which leads us basically to the second question, which is how can cooperation between Japan and the EU work if Japan is basically lagging behind in terms of introduction of renewable energy. And it's true that Japan is lagging behind significantly, because even, at least for now, the most ambitious goals are about a quarter maybe of electricity production that should be supplied by renewable energy for 2030, which is not that much if you think about it. But the thing is, well, first of all, even if you consider that, I think cooperation is still possible, because it's not only about cooperation like in renewable energy in terms of we're creating solar panels and wind stuff, but also other elements of clean energy, such as, for instance, hydrogen, where EU and Japan are discussing also possible ways to cooperate, which reflects interests of both parties. Also, even if Japan is not introducing, for instance, more renewable energy into its own market, it is still very much interested in participating in clean energy markets outside of Japan. So we still have Japanese companies that are very much interested in having a piece of the cake. So I think for cooperation itself, it's really not that significant if Japan is going to introduce more renewable energy in its own market or not. And last point, and then I'm done. There's also like the question cooperation, and this is what I tried to frame a little bit in my paper, in my presentation, is not necessarily the same as connectivity, at least in my understanding. So the creation of certain rules and certain markets and frameworks is, from my understanding, a little bit of a different setup. And I think, once again, even if there is not so much real connectivity potential maybe in the field of renewable energy, there is still a possibility for cooperation. And on the other hand, there is still possibility to create connectivity, even if it's not necessarily in those booming markets, for which maybe, you know, a case in terms of gas can be made.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question, helped.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will have a very short round, very short second round of question. Actually, first to David. So we are going back to your original kind of the theoretical, the conceptual approach. So does energy cooperation causes any change in Russia's Hobbesian worldview? So is Russia changing throughout the process of energy cooperation? So yes or no? Yeah.
No, that's quick
No.
answer is no. And on social constructivist views, yes, I've looked at the literature on that, and clearly it also doesn't clearly put the Russian worldview in a very, the Russian worldview a lot of times is always interpreted and viewed from a very realist and
okay, so well, is there any room for social constructivism, kind
yes.
of identity formation repeated gain in your case?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And Jinun, so what difference will SP can make at this stage?
So the strategic partnership provides the institutional basis for promoting greater connectivity between Europe and Asia, in addition to the existing strategic partnerships with China, Japan, India, and Korea. And other institutional arrangements can also follow suit, such as the free trade agreement between EU and ASEAN. And these types of institutional arrangements are very much important in achieving the external policies. That's all I can say for now. Thank you.
Okay, and lastly to Diana. So you have pointed out a number of the kind of the differences and obstacles, but if we see the kind of the positive side of the future, do you have any suggestion how the difference between the EU and Japan can be overcome? So what is the suggestion, recommendation?
Oh wow! If I had a real good policy recommendation, I might, you know, just go for it with the EU. But I think the key might be a shift towards more of a pragmatic and business-oriented point of view, because I have the feeling that probably the differences won't be solved on the high diplomacy on the government level, probably, but maybe we need to sort of create the right incentives for those actors who are actually doing stuff, who are actually you know, following the practices and standards, which would be probably businesses and other actors. So I think the key is on the level of practices and standards and how we make people follow them. And this might help if we can maybe look at the matter a little bit more from the, I don't know, multinational businesses point of view, to see how we can create the right set of incentives for them and institutions for them to behave in a way that leads us to more connectivity and to our joint goals.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, once again, thank you very much for your answer. Actually, those three, the papers were actually were also very interesting to me. But I will save my question maybe for at some point, for the next the opportunity. But I may end up with a very brief comment on your kind of suggestion and for your research, maybe from the reverse way, actually. Well, a couple of weeks ago, actually, just a few days ago, just a few weeks ago, Japanese Prime Minister Suga announced the Japanese version of net zero initiative. And Japan has recently made a pretty fast, it's based on feed-in tariff scheme, very fast the growth in renewable energy sector. So and European Union is taking steps toward the European Green Deal. So especially and Paris Agreement is hopefully is reviving again. So maybe in between both at the market level and state to state level, maybe at the Japan and EU and as well as Korea and even China can make the good progress. David, well, it was a wonderful topic, and actually the both pipeline LNGs, well, it is linking Russia, Asia, and Europe, Eurasia. So hope you will continue your research. And Jin-Hoon, a lot of people are interested in EU ASEAN connectivity, the project, also linking and potentially the people to people and also infrastructure level. So that is wonderful topic, and in the very near future, I hope you to be a very active researcher linking these two continents. Once again, thank you very much for 3 junior fellows of SPEAC. So, and let's give a warm round of applause to the 3 presenters. All right, so I will wrap up the junior fellow session, and I will pass the mic to Professor Sung-Hoon Park and Professor Sebastian Borsig for the final closing session.
Thank you, Professor Lee, for your efforts to preside this very interesting and very valuable session with junior fellows. Sebastian's presentation was really excellent, and we have been enriched by this 3-hour discussion with the scholar and with junior fellows. Thanks a lot. And Sebastian, do you have any last words for today's event?
Yes. First of all, a big thank you to those in the organizing teams in Europe and Asia who made this online event possible. It's amazing how much work in the end is needed in order to make these online sessions running, and I think we can be quite satisfied that we managed to construct connectivity, even though COVID-19 takes a toll on all our social lives. So, well, Sung-Hoon, I really do hope that we will soon meet in person.
Yes.
And, I think that the SPEAC Junior Fellows did a great job as well. All of you can access their papers on the website of the project, and there is more to come. So this is getting bigger.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sebastian, and also to the participants of this workshop, or we have counted at the highest number of 125, and now it's reduced to 70. It was a really very excellent and very rewarding kind of event that we had. And to the student audience from Europe and Asia, Korea, we are still, we have some opportunities to provide to you, especially as junior fellows. You can write papers and have similar activities like the 3 junior fellows have done today. So please visit our website of the project, and you can find some call for proposals for the junior fellowship. And also I'd like to thank our SPEAC team members in Bochum, in Uppsala, in Lublin, and in Singapore and Korea, that we have done very interesting discussion for two days. Yesterday and today we had very long, but however very productive discussion we had. And we will make a minute of the meetings, and we will disseminate it so that we can keep in closer touch, and we can proceed with our project. Thank you very much for all you have done, and thanks a lot. Let's see.
Let's meet again soon. Again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Let's try to see each other.
Yes.
Offline. Yes.
Good. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
David, Diana, and Jinun, you have done excellent jobs. Thank you very much.